Calling to order tonight's meeting of the Ann Arbor District Library Board. We have attendance. Attendance is good, great. I'm going to mess this whole thing up all day. It's going to be great.
Just fine.
So now we do a vote for closed session for discussion of real estate. Can I get a motion to go to closed session?
So moved.
Seconded.
Great. And then this is a roll call vote.
Trustee Hadley?
Yes.
Trustee Kleinman?
Yes.
Trustee Leha?
Yes.
Trustee Solomon?
Yes.
Trustee Silva?
Yes.
Trustee Vanderbrook? Trustee Trudeau?
All right. So we're going to go to closed session.
We'll be back at 7 p.m.
Great. Thank you. Okay. I'm calling us back to order, reconvening the regular meeting. We do attendance again. Are we good with attendance? Okay, awesome. Next up is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, and now we vote on the agenda, and this is just everyone all in favor say yes or aye?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay, agenda passes. Next up is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Consent, all right, now we vote on the consent agenda. All in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Yes. All opposed? Okay, consent agenda passes. Moving on to citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments or residents' comments?
No, Susan.
Okay. Next up is the financial report with Eli.
All right. So financial report begins on page 22, right after the check register. So first up, our cash balance is at $15.7 million. You can see that's pretty much flat compared to last month, which is to be expected this time of year. You can see in last year, it went up a little bit higher, so we had some larger purchases this year, just to kind of level that off. So basically, our revenue that is, dispersed over the course of the year just about matched our spending in this past month, which is why that line is flat across that line. So tax receipts are recorded as they're earned. So that's, again, $1.6 million a month. And our total receipts through September 30th is $17.8 million, or 88.4% of budget. That's how much we've actually received in tax collections. It's pretty normal for this time of year. Still starting to roll in. Typically around January or February, we're getting pretty close to 99, 100% as the various stragglers and collections and other sorts of things come through. So that's right on track. Our general fund balance, that's our undesignated fund, is $7.8 million as of September 30th. So that's about 5 months of operations. That's about as low as we want it to get. So we'll be talking after we receive the audit next month. We'll be talking about what to do with last year's surplus if we want to put it into the capital fund. If you look at now the fund balance versus general fund chart on page 23, this year is the green year out on the 3 charts there. And you can see we're doing better than the previous year, and mostly because we have not made any adjustments to our available fund balance. So that's as expected this time of year. And just to remind you, the blue year, which was 21-22, where that big difference from August to September was the purchase of Parkland Plaza. So we're right where we want to be. Our revenues of $5.1 million, that's 25% of budget after 25% of the fiscal year because of the accrual, and our expenditures are 24.4% of budget. So we're right on track, spending just a little bit behind, and we have a year-to-date increase in net assets of $125,000. That's basically just because of the things that we've purchased that are bookable as assets. If you turn to page 24, you can see our expenses there. One comment we want to make, and I'll show you this on the profit and rather the actual versus budget form in just a minute, is that we did discover a miscalculation when we were doing our budget development relative to rent amounts, and we will be needing an adjustment later in the year. So I'll talk about that some more in just a moment. But you can see also in this September, we did receive a check for $10,000 from the Friends of the Library, which we're very appreciative of and glad to see them back generating revenue and passing it along to us. So that's great news. So now if you'll turn to page 26, and I picked up the wrong copy of this, that's okay. So what you're looking for in the last column is anything on the expenditure side that is really over 25%, here 25% through the year. You can see our salaries and wages pretty much right on track, 25.7%. Accounting and audit is at 140%. That is primarily because we've already paid for the audit. However, in, let's see, what was it, May, we had the resignation of our part-time accounts payable clerk. We have not replaced that position. We've been using outsourced staff to do that. So our contract with the outside financial firm has continued where we had expected it to completely have discontinued. However, we do have a plan to be done with that by January 1st. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Is that
But
still Manor?
that is still Manor Starrison, yes, the same firm that had been doing our financials for a number of years.
And so that would have been on the personnel line, basically?
It would have been on the personnel line, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah. So that's as expected with accounting and audit, but we will make an adjustment to that toward the end of the fiscal year.
And then when that position is rehired, then all of the financial operations are internal?
That's correct. However, we do not plan to fill that position because we are currently doing that work with between 4 and 5 hours a week from the contract firm. So we are looking at what our other internal resources are to take on the accounts payable work on the 1 day a
just
week
like
that it's needed.
reorganize
Yes, reorganize, yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Building rental, as you can see there, we're already at 50%, should be at 25%. This is due to our calculation error when we were putting the budget together in the first place. So when that gets a little closer to 100%, we want to wait and see which other lines are before we determine where to take that from. But we will make an adjustment to that as we get later into the year, just to match our error that we made during budget development related to the change in the way that we have to book that with principal and interest, which isn't really principal and interest, but you have to consider principal and interest. So we have caught the error. We won't make it again, but it will require an adjustment later in this fiscal year, something that we talked about this week at Finance Committee. Other ones that are over 50, that are over 25%, legal expense, that's at 54%, but that's to be expected. Most of that cost related to negotiations, and that should fall back in over the course of the year. Materials and minor equipment purchases, programming and materials rather, both of them in the low 30s. That's again to be expected this time of year coming off of summer purchasing and summer events. And Jim had asked the question last time, will we get some more of our historical experience baked into these percentages to see how we're doing compared to how we usually do? And that's something we'll be in a position to do after we have completed our next full year. So that'll be coming in the spring or summer. Let's see, what else? Let's see, we got 46% for postage. We're in the middle of a negotiation with our postal meter racket, So we've been making some adjustments to that to be able to keep homebound materials flowing with the outreach department, and it is a little bit more expensive than we normally would be. So we're in the process of working through that. So while it's at 46%, it's also a budget that is a total of $21,000 over the entire year, so it's small potatoes. And then the one other one is just to call out software licenses, which is at 28%, which again is a front-loaded budget. So that all brings us together. We spent 24.4% of our expenditures versus 25% of our revenue, all together in a good position. And that's it for the financial report. Any questions? Okay, we will have our auditors will be here next month. They will meet with the Finance Committee before that, and they will be here at the November meeting to present the audit findings. That's it for the financial report.
Great, thank you. Next up is committee reports. Executive Committee did meet. Do you remember what we talked about? Usually Scott has prepared to talk about this, but it was unexpected that he wasn't here today.
Sure. What did we talk about? We talked about,
Do you remember what we talked about?
Yes, part of what we talked
I
about.
remember what we talked about in the Budget Committee, but not the.
Yes, about what we might do in the event of a trustee resignation was
yes.
something that we talked about, where that conversation will continue.
Yes, got it, thank you. And I think that was it for the Executive Committee, Budget and Finance Committee.
We met with banks that manage our investments, and it was pretty straightforward because we basically are all invested in mutual bonds, and we're probably just going to stay there, but it's possible we could do federal bonds.
Ooh,
So we are having that conversation.
great,
Anything else that is important to say, Eli, on that?
Nope.
Yeah.
great, thanks. Moving on to the library report.
All right. So library report up on your screen for October. All right, so for a stat of the month this month, we want to talk about festival and expo attendance. So this is a chart of the total number of attendees for all of our big events, starting with Halloween 22, just about almost a year ago, and going on forward from there. You can see some of our biggest events are Tiny Expo and A2CAF. A2CAF brings in 2 days what Tiny Expo brings in 1. Tiny Expo is a very busy day at the library. You can also see there's kind of like the really big ones, there's the medium-sized ones, and then there's the smaller ones. We're looking at some of the smaller events being combined, specifically looking at combining the CSA Fair and the Gardening and DIY Fest. There's a really good combination there into a slightly rebranded event that will take place a little bit earlier in the year, so that'll be coming. Summer Game Spectacular continues to be very large and solid. The Community Book Fest off to a great start. A2CAF Small and Indie also off to a great start. But this is, I think, 16 large events over the course of a year. I'm not saying we're maxed out, but we probably see a realistic maximum of about 2 big things a month, right? We're still a ways, there's still some more room for that, but also the summer is kind of one long big thing. So, and also with how much travel and other things there are for people in town, it's not a great time of year for really big events that aren't kind of elementary and middle school focused. So in looking at this, there's certainly still some room, but we can see some big events here that have really come out of nowhere and grown very quickly. So we're delighted to see that. Any questions about stats of the month? Yes, please.
I have a question. My understanding is that there are a couple of community events that the library is taking on, and I'm wondering if, like, is that?
Only what you see here.
It's only that, okay.
Yes, like Community Book Fest is the best
Oh,
example
Book
of
Fest,
that,
yeah,
which
okay.
had been the Carytown Book Festival
Yeah.
and is now, it's not a wholly AADL joint. There's still the community, the Carytown Book Fest is still an
already in
organization,
there, okay.
and we partner with them. Another good example of that is the CSA Fair, which is driven primarily by the local CSA Alliance, if I remember what the organization is called right, as well as the Preschool Expo, which is all really very driven by the various preschools that come to exhibit.
Okay,
So that's what we've got at this point.
great.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, I mean, is attendance the best metric for, so these are events that are big by attendance?
Yes.
And I'm sure there's a portfolio of events that are big by effort, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Which maybe some of them are here and some of them are not.
Some of them are, yeah, that's right. Some of them are and some of them are not. There's a lot of events that are really in the 75 to 100 turnout that are very important events and have an outsized value. And this is not to say that this is the sole metric that's important to the library, because it certainly is not. However, this is pretty much the list of events that take over the entire building,
Yeah.
and that involve multiple venues in use at once, and often involve some sort of an expo or tabling space that is different from a regular library program. So we think about them as big things, and they kind of have their own events development process that goes with that. So that's kind of revealing what we sort into that bucket. Did I answer your question, Jim?
Oh, yeah. I'm just, always curious to know, when you look at a portfolio like this, and this is not a trick question, it's sort of like, what do you see that's missing? I mean,
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, I mean, from a strategic lens,
Right.
from a community lens, that
Well,
kind of thing.
in many cases, when we build strong relationships in the community, people tell us what's missing and they propose things to address
Yeah.
that. For example, we are just in the early phases of talking about a Southeast Asian Children's Literature Festival for October in partnership with, it's called VARTA, and is in partnership with a group that has approached us and has already secured some funding from the state. And it's a really great conversation. That's something that will be happening next October. So that's the sort of thing we love to see happen, whereas we're starting to show we're a trusted partner for your community event and you don't lose your identity or ownership in the process. We're starting to hear more partners come to us and say, can you help us make our dreams come true, which is where we want to be. Did you have something, Jamie?
That's pretty much what I wanted to
Okay.
ask. Like, I've been starting to get questions from people who want to do like an art book fair, not to
Ah.
be confused with every other book fair that
Yes.
you just managed to consolidate into one. But it sort of overlaps with both the Community Book Fest and the A2CAF Small and Indie, and so I just wonder about like strategic alignment there. I don't know. Everyone has an art book fair now. This is a thing. Like, Detroit has one, and other smaller cities have them now. I thought immediately of you, but I don't know if it's like, there's too much saturation in the region already.
We do have a concept for a zine event in development, and there can
Okay.
be some good alignment there.
Right.
We also have, there's an idea that's been floating out there for a while, and it's not landed yet, but it's Dead Media Day, about all kinds of dead media formats. I'm still hoping at some point we'll bring back a Ways Goose, which is a printing festival.
Yeah,
So
right.
all of those could conceivably be some good alignment
Totally.
for a partnership along those lines. And in some cases, we wind up with a couple smaller events that then kind of accrete together over time, which is a really great way to build a bigger audience.
And to make it so you still have room on the board to add
Yes.
up to 24. I don't know, it just seems like,
Yeah. Any other questions about this?
No, but yay, zines. I love
Yes.
zines.
All right. So, and on that line, here's some upcoming events. Our Halloween costume contest this Sunday, October 29th, at the Downtown Library. Shortly, around the same time as the Halloween parade that the Main Street Ann Arbor Festival, Main Street Ann Arbor Association is putting on. We will be leading the toddler parade. I myself will be in costume. So that's when they asked us if we want to lead a toddler parade. The answer was, where do we show up? So we're excited about that. Our Halloween show is actually on Halloween, because this is an organization that still believes in Halloween, that is on Halloween, not on the commercially convenient proximity to Halloween. So Tuesday, October 31st, we'll have 2 shows of our big Halloween show. Reggie Watts coming up shortly thereafter, Thursday, November 2nd at Mendelssohn Theater. That was sold out almost immediately. That was a very popular event. If you haven't read his book, it is really terrific, and I'm really looking forward to that event. Tiny Expo coming up on Saturday, December 9th at the Downtown Library. Whopper, that's Washtenaw Area Pickup Robotics. That's Saturday, December 16th at Parkland Plaza, involving all the high school robotics teams in the area. And we've got AAFAX, the Ann Arbor Fiber Arts Expo, Sunday, February 11th downtown. That is Super Bowl Sunday, which we've determined is a great day to have a Fiber Arts Expo. All right. So facility updates, I just want to let you know, so Traverwood was the garage to Traverwood was closed for the past week, and it was to replace this drain. This drain is to catch the water that rolls down the hill toward the garage, and it had basically eroded away and it needed to be replaced. So required a closure, because you can see it covers the entire width of the lane. So that project is complete, and this morning the garage reopened after, I think it was a full week of not being available, but that project went well, and it's all complete. Thanks to Len for tearing his hair out on working with the trades on that one. Some items that are new in the collection, the last 6 months, there have been a bunch of new tools to the tools collection, including a portable, it's one device, Blu-ray DVD CD player with a built-in screen. Something we'd gotten asked about for a long time, but media players didn't really make a lot of sense for us until they got to the point where the ones with a built-in screen was more than just a tiny little thing. Because now it has a use case, you can take it on road trips, it has a battery, all kinds of different uses for it. It's not just about the media player that then you need another device to hook up to. There's still some question about using these sorts of things in the building. Well, of course, you can check it out and watch something. Generally, we are not doing listening or viewing stations, right? That's just not something that's a service that we currently provide, and it's something that, for a lot of good reasons, at the Downtown Library and at the branches as well. Home radon detectors has been something that we had said no to probably 6-7 years ago, and since then the technology has really come a long way to the point where they no longer require complex calibration. They're a lot more reliable, so you can now check out a radon detector, take it home for a week, and see what your numbers are like. Binoculars and monoculars, we got some questions from the Audubon Society. We made some revisions to that collection, added a couple new things. Monoculars are nice because they're a lot more accessible, especially to people with various types of vision impairment, because you don't have to get 2 eyes to work at the same time in the same way. A multi-track recorder that's new, a mending loom that just recently hit the collection, and coming soon, something we've been working on for a long time, graphing calculators and Wi-Fi hotspots. Those will both have extended loan, so you will basically check them out and you'll have almost a semester long to borrow those for. So that will be helpful to people who are in challenging situations trying to get their homework done. Any questions about any of that? All right. Our staff spotlight for this month is Chris Porter, who's a library tech. He will be at AADL 7 years next month. What do you wish people you worked with knew about you? And he says, I've written for newspapers and magazines since high school, and I eventually started editing them too. Now I do that for Pulp. It's pretty much all I ever wanted to do for a career. But I left my newspaper job after our second son was born so I could be a full-time dad. Once both kids were in school, I needed a job, but I wasn't crazy about the idea of returning to publishing. The industry had changed a ton because of the internet, so I was considering a career change but didn't know what I wanted to do. I really liked hanging out with my kids, so I figured I might like a job working with children. I became a substitute teacher to test the waters. Within a couple months, I was hired as a long-term substitute at my kids' elementary school. Position, librarian. So yep, my job with Pulp isn't the first time I've worked in a library or a journalist, but it's the only time the two have been combined. So Chris does a great job as one of the two people who organizes Pulp and does a lot of the editorial work there, and they handle, I think it's between like 4 to 6 stringers a week of money that we're putting out into the community for people who want to write about arts. And just a reminder, Pulp was founded in direct response to the discontinuation of the arts page from the Ann Arbor News, I think it was about 8 years ago. All right, congratulations to Chris. All right, so AADL observes and celebrates Native American Heritage Month is coming up in November. So we've continued to offer programming by Native American presenters about topics related to Native American history and culture. You can visit that at aadl.org/Native American Heritage Month for a list of past and upcoming programming, as well as staff book recommendations and more. And I think we had mentioned in a library report recently, we are in the process of developing a land acknowledgement to be used at events that are related to Indigenous people or cultures or history, as well as to be made into plaques to hang in the lobbies of, to hang in the vestibules of all of our buildings. So that will be coming. We'll have more for that as that gets closer. We're working with a consultant who specializes in this and a team of staff who have volunteered. So our mentions of the month from Emily LB, Godak Blue, and Namrata Gupta. So we can see the first one, my costume for library obsessed person is coming along nicely. Hashtag it's not a costume. And then I have a little buddy who was so excited to wear his AADL Graham logo shirt to school because it was library day for his class. And then thanks a lot, AADL Graham. I'm absolutely loving the library person tee, which has been very popular. We've seen those all over town. And Rich throws on here, we distributed 3,824 AADL t-shirts through the summer game this year. So that's a lot of advertising out there that people have been able to get. And it is driving a lot of demand for us to have them at retail, and something we're talking with the friends about. Okay. One more mention here, photo from The Reference. The Reference is the name of the band, very library-oriented band. Photos from a show by local band The Reference who checked out event lights from the Tools collection for a recent gig. So all of those lights, they shouted out to us. That was all stuff that they borrowed from the library. And compliment of the month, a new patron signing up for a library card appreciated the legal name was listed underneath the preferred name on the application instead of the legal name being first. That's something that was mentioned across the desk in September. And here we have the complaint of the month, which actually just arrived today. 2 questions as a frequent library user I've had for years. Why at the Westgate branch is there no drive-up book deposit box? Thousands of other libraries have this feature, and the area is perfectly amenable to it in back. Certainly safer than exiting a car for some patrons. 2, it's too late to wonder why the Westgate building was designed so poorly as to have the children's open and next to the adult reading study area. Obviously, the noise needlessly distracts, but it may not be too late to remedy the situation at some cost, sadly, by creating a sound barrier between the areas. It needn't be a wall. I've never seen the children's section situated the way it is at Westgate. Most librarians, parents, and children appreciate a separation, which often results in it being used in more and in more ways. Thanks for listening. I did respond to this today, and just in response to number 1, it's not actually perfectly amenable to it. For one thing, that's rented space. We don't own the parking lot, and requiring the landlord to make the sort of adjustments that are required to site plan as well as to curbs and blacktop and all that kind of things is not within the scope of our lease. The other thing is I don't think that we would invest in a drop-off that was like a best-kept secret sort of location. However, we are in the process of adding a book drop that is accessible from the driver's side underneath Traverwood, where that's just us buying a box and putting it out. It's not a major investment, and it's something that we've been working on for a while. So people who are looking to drop off their materials by car will be able to do so by driving through underneath Traverwood. But it is unfortunately not simple, particularly with land you don't own. However, as far as the kids area, I was puzzled to hear the description of the kids areas being next to the adult reading study area, because the reading room at Westgate is way far in the back corner, as far from the kids areas can be, and it's actually kind of one of our quietest spaces in the whole system. It worked out that the architectural separation really changes people's behavior back there, and it is super quiet. However, there are lots of reasons why we won't be walling off the kids' area. And, it's, nobody goes there anymore, that's why it's so crowded. So it's one of those types of equations. And I'm sorry that this was disruptive to him, and I said so, and I encouraged him to look other places in the system for the quiet that he's seeking. But it's very difficult for any of our branches to provide quiet on a regular basis. Whereas here at the downtown library, there's almost always a quiet place somewhere. So I thanked him for his feedback, but it's not realistic for us to wall off that space, nor is it realistic for us to tell children that there's parts of a library that they can and cannot go to. So there could just as easily be a shrieking child in the reading room as there could be in the kids' area. So that's where we're at on that. And that's my report. Any questions or comments?
As a parent, I appreciate there isn't a wall, because
Yes.
it's like helpful to be able to drop off the books and like keep a line of sight. Plus, I just imagine running a public building, it's nice to have the line of sight for the
Yes,
most part.
that's really our top concern, and line of sights into the youth area, and also single point of access into and out of the youth area, so that parents can choose a place to sit where they can see if their child makes a run for it. That's always been our goal for kids' areas, and Westgate is really very effective. That's why it's so loud.
I'm not the parent of children, but I do have little people in my life. I actually think that, I'm glad that you pointed out some of the design components of Westgate, because I think it's sort of genius in the design, and in fact, in the way that it is noisy in the front, and it gets sort of
Right.
progressively more quiet as you move to the back part of the building, just to like underscore the intentional design
Yes,
there. So I hope our patron finds that.
I hope so, too.
Quiet as they move through the building. I'm often very surprised how quiet it is in the back there.
it really is.
That's my
It's-
home branch, so.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Great, thank you, Eli. Moving on to old business, we have Len talking about Parkland Plaza.
Good evening. So, it's been a busy month. Last month, there really wasn't a whole lot going on. This month and the last 3 weeks, there's been a ton of work out there. We've completed all the saw cutting inside the building. All of the flat work's been removed. Footings are in place for vertical columns. I think we had the HVAC equipment last month, but maybe I'm mistaken. There's been a lot going on. We did acquire all the steel today, so that's all on site. This morning, the shoring came down, which was holding up the roof, and all of the vertical columns were up when I left the building around 2 o'clock today, which is pretty impressive. They started that work at 8 o'clock this morning. So between 8 o'clock and 2 p.m., the shoring was down, and the steel crew had a lot of steel up. So I think by the end of next week, all of the steel will be up along with the decking, so we can pour the second floor. We also received our construction schedule, which puts this on target to be complete by April 15th of '24, which is a really nice schedule. That's what we were hoping for. It gives us some time. We talked about early summer for a move-in, so that puts us right on schedule for it. Any questions?
No, but thank you.
Looks like we're going to hear some more.
Yes.
All right, so yeah, we can move on to the standby generator for Westgate.
Yeah, so last month we had kicked off this conversation and we pushed it for a possible resolution this month. It's still a discussion. We had our electrician look at it to make sure that budget was accurate. It wasn't. It was quoted as a 125 kilowatt generator that was spec'd on our space. It does not include Sweetwater's. So we want to do a power load to see what that increase would be. I don't think it will change the budget that much, but enough to where we just need to do our homework. It could increase that budget by about $30,000. But again, this size unit is about a 12-month lead time. So hopefully at the November meeting, we can bring something back to you with an updated budget of the correct unit that includes Sweetwater's, because there's really, the space should be open as is if there's an outage, especially for an extended period of time. So we want to bring back something that's accurate and correct so we don't have to do it twice. So I'll have that for you. Any questions on that one?
That's good.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Len.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Len.
All right, next up, we have the resolution to adopt revisions to policy 3.1 circulation, which is an action item from, that we carried over from last month, I think?
Yes. So first, a motion?
Okay, so is this, it's in here somewhere?
Yes, it is in here, starting on page 28.
Thank you. All right, so 28, great. So can I get a motion to amend, right?
To adopt the
To
revision.
adopt, can I get a motion to adopt the revisions to policy 3.1 circulation?
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion.
So just to put this in context, this is not changed from when we saw this and spoke about it last month. The biggest difference with this policy changes is this now makes room in the policy for employees of any organization or institution, including the University of Michigan, within our service area, to receive a card without the permission of their supervisor. So they can just basically provide proof that they are employed there, and they don't have to ask their supervisor about it. That's a step we've been waiting for a long time. It also removes the word instructional from the free cards for AAPS employees, meaning that any AAPS employee, whether they're instructional staff or not, will be eligible for a card. And then it adds the ability to have a minimum for people who are paying for their cards because they live out of the district. It adds the ability for that to be monthly instead of quarterly, monthly of $12.50. That will take us some time to have some infrastructure for it, but it's adding the policy structure for it. Ultimately, we want to get to a point where people can have it automatically charged monthly against their credit card, just the way that Netflix or anything like that does. We already have infrastructure for that from Square, so we wouldn't be handling credit card numbers, but we still need to work through getting that process, so that won't be starting right away. However, we will immediately start issuing cards to U of M employees or employees of AAPS that are not instructional employees. Those are really the only substantial changes, other than changing some places where it would say service desk to service point, to make it more clear that a lot of these things are doable online as opposed to requiring to be in person. And the one other thing I just wanted to mention is we also talked about some changes to the citizen comment policy last time. We still have work to do on that before we're ready to bring it back to the board. So that is likely to be coming back at the January meeting after we have some more conversations with council. So that's still in process, but it is not part of today's action. So this is just about revising the exact language changes that were presented last month. Any questions or further discussion?
And then we removed we created this as like a gender neutral document.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yep.
Yeah.
Just checking. Thank you.
Can I read it?
Yeah, I was to say, it's a matter of practice. We have to read it.
I wanna
It's
read
really
it.
long.
No, but I think the resolution is
The
short.
resolution, yes. You can,
Yes.
you can read the resolution, yes.
I just really wanted us to have reciprocal borrowing when I started on the board,
Yeah.
and it didn't work out to be reciprocal. But I'm very proud of this organization for taking the first step. That's awesome news.
Great.
Okay.
So if there's no comments, yeah, go ahead.
The board resolves that Circulation Policy 3.1 is revised as proposed, that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adopting revisions to the circulation policy.
Thank you all very much.
Yay, very nice.
Good business.
All right, moving on to new business. We've got a series of resolutions that I think are all Parkland, right? So,
Yes.
Yes, they are.
yes.
So to be clear, this is the civil site work that is outside of the scope that's already been approved. So this is what we had to do. We went through full site plan approval with South Township to bring the exterior building up to code. And we had to do the sidewalks, some fencing, asphalt, and the landscaping. So these are those four resolutions to release to those contractors.
So what we should probably do is go through them one at a time
Okay,
and have the motion and the second, and then we can discuss that specific award,
okay,
and then vote on each one.
great. So, first one is for asphalt. So, can I get a motion to award the contract for asphalt paving at Parkland Plaza.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
Okay, so we had 4 responses to this. After scope review, O'Neill Construction recommended we award to Kirkco Inc. for $25,631.10. It's important to note here, they will only accept if they're also awarded 3A, which is the concrete work. This is the asphalt work. There is another bid response that is exactly the same, which is the BMS Cat Jarvis. They do that because that work touches each other. So whoever is doing the asphalt work, it will touch the concrete, and they like to do both of those things. If you do your concrete work and then the paver comes in and runs the roller across it, you're still responsible for that concrete. So they wanted to do both. Any questions about the responses?
Yeah, can you explain, it says not a union, no issues in the past, what is that?
I'm not sure what no issues in the past mean. I think most of that is when they check against like prevailing wages and things they've done. Most of these folks, to my knowledge, have worked on union jobs, prevailing wages.
Okay.
Assuming that's what Nicole's intention was during scope review, because they will check that type of work in the past.
That's a comment from the construction
Yes.
manager, the no issues in the past, about what their experience is working with this contractor on union jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, and on that end, when O'Neill got these responses in early September, so it's been almost 2 months of scope review, vetting each bid to make sure every bid was the same to provide this.
Yeah, I just wanted some clarity there,
Yeah.
thank you.
Len, you want to talk about what we found out about wages
Yes.
for this contractor? Because we asked this question.
We asked the question about prevailing wages, and when you look at, say, a concrete flat work tech, which would be union scale, it's low $20 an hour, and I'm sure there's folks paying overscale right now just to get people. Kirkco Inc. is a minimum of $25 an hour for anyone in the construction department or division, and it goes up from there. So when I talked to their project manager, just like, do you have a response when you're asked about prevailing wages? And he said it really doesn't come up because their whole package would be equal, so they've never been turned down to work on prevailing wages job in the past.
Any other questions about this one?
So they're the second lowest?
Yes.
So what makes them like the pick then?
Well, when we get to 3A, the
Spoiler
concrete
alert.
portion, which is the large portion here, they're much lower.
Oh,
So
okay.
even the two together, they're
Lower.
lower than anyone else.
And they're the only firm that bid on both the asphalt and concrete together, and not only they want to do that, is that right?
No, BM,
Oh, okay.
Cat Jarvis did as well.
Right. But we want to make sure that those are both done by the same contractor because they require so much coordination. They literally touch each other.
So should we vote on them both at the same
We'll
time?
get there, but I'll just, for now in context, for the combination, Cat Jarvis was $189,500 for the concrete, Kirk goes $119,000 for the
Oh, wow.
concrete. That's the difference, even when you put the two together. Yes, both of them want to do them, and we want that, but there's your huge difference.
I see. I don't think we can vote on them separately, though. It seems like we have to just
Yeah.
do the one, and then it will
And
be
do the other.
invalidated, I guess.
Right, okay. Great. Do we read it now?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead, if everyone's comfortable, if anyone has any questions, I think we can go ahead and vote on the resolution that appears on page 38.
Great.
The board resolves to authorize O'Neill Construction to award the contract for asphalt paving work at Parkland Plaza to Curbco in the amount of $25,631.10. That dime. That the expenditure be authorized from the capital fund, and that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next one.
The next one should be 2B for landscape. We had 2 responses. We did have one union response on this one. The 2 numbers were very far
No,
apart.
actually, the next one is
I'm sorry.
concrete, Len.
two-
So 3A is what's next, just on the agenda and in the packet.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was going in order. So we are doing concrete now. So in concrete, 3A, we had 3 responses. One was union, so we had Kirkco Inc. at $119,314.09. GM and Sons was $136,500, and BMS Cat Jarvis was $189,500. And O'Neill's recommendation is Kirkco Inc., and that's how we felt about it as well, is when you put the two working together. And this is where the asphalt and the concrete come together.
So it's 119 and change plus the 25.
Yes.
Noted.
Any questions?
No, but we didn't move this one, I think. So can I get a motion to consider the resolution to award contract for concrete work at Parkland Plaza?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, now we can keep discussing if needed. Sounds like we're good, though. Great.
The board resolves to authorize O'Neill Construction to award the contract for concrete work at Parkland Plaza to Curbco in the amount of $119,314.09, so that the expenditure be authorized from the capital fund and that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? All right, motion passes. I have 2C showing up
Yes.
next. Okay. So can I get a motion to award the contract for fencing work at Parkland Plaza?
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion.
This was our own response.
Well, that's pretty straightforward,
Well,
isn't
good, you
it?
got one, I guess.
It was in line with O'Neill's construction budget, so it wasn't an eye-popping number. It was right in line with where they felt it would be. But yes, it was our only response for this one.
The board resolves to authorize O'Neill Construction to award the contract for fencing work at Parkland Plaza to Future Fence in the amount of $23,866, that the expenditure be authorized from the capital fund, that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded.
All those in favor? Say yes.
Aye.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. And then this is the last one. Can I get a motion to award the contract for landscaping work at Parkland Plaza?
So moved.
Second.
Great.
All right, so to be landscaping, we had 2 responses. One of them is a union contractor. Margolis is not. They have an agreement with the laborers union, which guarantees they will pay labor prevailing wages. This one is kind of shocking. Margolis was $39,800, whereas WH Cannon was $165,140. We didn't get a good answer why that was so far apart.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason some of the scope review took longer. We wanted to have these at last month's meeting, but a couple of these numbers were that far off. This is a guess, but sometimes you go high because you're either too busy or you don't want it that bad. And if you get it, you would do it at that number. And you'll see this in bidding. You'll see this, you'll throw out a number, and it's like, okay, I would do it for that. But they could be that busy, and if that was their number, if they were gonna take on this big of a job, so. And O'Neill, obviously, suggested we go with Margolis.
Yeah. What is the extent of the landscaping there?
It's basically everything north facing along the building, the front beds, and some landscaping around the dumpster enclosure. We have a nice detailed plant list and some new trees. There's 3 trees were dead when we purchased the property, so they've been taken down. It's replacing those trees and just fixing what's been there since the building was built. It really wasn't maintained that well. It was a warehouse.
Yeah.
So basically the north side of the building and the front will all get new landscaping and irrigation.
Great.
And that was something that came up during our approval.
Yeah.
In that they have some ordinances about how many shrubs you need per square footage, per foot of frontage, things like that.
Nice.
They had believed that the building was originally built that way.
Yes.
Because that it was supposed to have been in compliance, but we checked historical satellite imaging.
Those
and
bushes never
Those bushes were
existed.
never there, that's right.
Yeah.
But we're going to put them there now.
Okay.
Yes, they had, we went off the original site plan approval but we do meet the minimum requirement by the amount of land we own and the amount of green space we already have, which is 20%. So technically, we have to do nothing. But that's not like us.
Yes.
Very true.
The board resolves to authorize O'Neill Construction to award the contract for landscaping work at Parkland Plaza to Margolis in the amount of $39,800, that the expenditure be authorized from the capital fund, and that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
None.
Okay,
Thank you all.
thanks, Len.
Thanks, Len.
Next up, we have a resolution of thanks to Karen Wilson upon her retirement. Can I get a motion for this resolution to honor Karen Wilson upon her retirement?
So
moved.
Seconded.
Great, discussion.
Well, let's read it.
Okay, I'm going to read this one. Or do you want to read it, Jamie?
No, you can read it if you want to read it.
Whereas Karen Wilson has served as executive assistant to the director of Ann Arbor District Library since March 14th of 2007. Whereas Karen has provided excellent service to patrons, staff, administration, and trustees for the past 16 years. Whereas Karen's attention to detail, dedication, and expertise has provided outstanding benefit to the library and to the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the AADL Board of Trustees honors and congratulates Karen Wilson on her retirement as of November 1st, 2023, and thanks her for her many years of service. That all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded.
Would anyone else like to say something? I'd like to say something.
I can't see Karen over.
She's happy.
But just to offer lots of thanks and gratitude and to congratulate you upon your retirement, a momentous occasion, and we are so grateful to your service for all these years, to the administration, to the board. Thank you. And I hope that you're doing something just enjoyable and wonderful.
In my role as secretary, we have to email back and forth a good amount, and I'm always so impressed by your thoroughness, as well as just your general, you're so friendly each and every time when I respond back and forth to questions, and just know that you're so appreciated. And as well, Karen is also from Jackson. I am from Jackson, so I hope very much to see you walking down the streets whenever I'm visiting.
Yeah, I was in Aiden's position when I first started, that I got thrown into the position of secretary and was very nervous about that. And Karen made everything so easy for me. And
She did.
She always said she just makes everything so straightforward and easy. And it was just such a comfort as a new trustee to have her guiding me through that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Karen always puts everyone else first. I've always noticed that about you. You're always just like you're the most dedicated and service-oriented person I can think of. And so the library's been very lucky to have you for 16 years. And I'm sure that, that your successor will do a wonderful job, but I think you'll be really missed. And thank you.
All right.
Eli was going to say
Yes.
something.
I'll go for it.
Thank you, Karen, for all of your years of service for the library, for making it so easy for this organization to go through the transition that it has gone through recently, and for being, the glue that really holds the board and the administration and management team together. We wish you the absolute best. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and we'll miss you terribly. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries.
Yay.
Okay, and I think that was the last thing
That's it.
on the agenda. Are there any more residents' comments or any resident comments? And then are there any board member comments?
So this is also going to be my last meeting, which I know the board knows, and maybe the staff, maybe some of you know, but I'm going to hand in my letter of resignation at the end of this meeting. Oh, I didn't want that thing to turn around towards me. It's been the best part. The best part of when you're not on the executive committee is that you sit in this corner And that thing almost never turns around unless you decide to start talking. But yeah, I think like politicians often say that they need to resign from something to spend more time with their family. And so I'm slightly embarrassed to admit that that is happening in my case as well. I've got 2 little kids, and I managed to give birth to them while on this board, but now that they're fully mobile, I think that I just need to take one thing off my plate and step back. But it was a really difficult decision because I have really enjoyed working on this board with you all, and it's hard to leave, but it's a good time because you're in such good shape, and you have, I have amazing colleagues, and I know that you'll manage the next step very well and continue to do great things. So thank you. I'll give this letter to you, Molly. I have this little key fob in the exact same container that you gave it to me. I never took it out and put it on anything. I just hold it up when I need to get into the building. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie.
I'm going to speak.
Oh, no.
We have been on this board together for almost the same amount of time, and it's a real turning point because it's been a complete change of board members since then. You're leaving me as the last man standing.
The elder statesperson.
But I just we have worked very closely together. I was so grateful to you when you assumed the role of president when you did. And it was not challenging. And I have said this to you privately, and I'll say it publicly, which is that I think you bring such sort of equanimity to all the things that you do, especially the things that you've done here. And what I mean by that is you're sensitive. You have like a real clarity of humanity. You're often very calm, which is wonderful. You are so intelligent and strategic, and a lot of people who are like that are not necessarily so like feelings oriented and like caring, and I just appreciate that so much about you. I myself am sometimes that person who's strategic and not so feelings oriented, and I appreciate being able to be in community with you and leadership with you, because together I think we've just been able to achieve some amazing things here. And I feel like I've just learned a lot from you and your style and the way that you work, and I think of that often. So congratulations on your service here. We will miss you. I will miss you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. We're going to do a resolution for you next month. All right, any other? All right, so then the meeting is adjourned.
Good job.